What's up, folks? Welcome back to another season of the Best Show Ever podcast. This is the third season, just rolling out right now. We've got two brand new episodes out for you. One of those being with Tom Hamilton Jr. From JRAD, and the other one is the one you're listening to right now with Ari Fink, program director and host over at SiriusXM. He is hosting on channel 29 for the Phish channel. If you're Phish fans that listen to SiriusXM, you've heard of Ari. Of course you have. If you're a Dave fan listening to SiriusXM, you can hear him over on channel 30, where he's also doing program direction, hosting, all that kind of stuff. Ari is just one of the biggest names in our scene, you know? There's not a lot of people who are out there interviewing Trey and Dave and Fishman and Mike Gordon, Warren Haynes, all these different. If there's a name in the music industry that you find impressive, Ari more than likely has crossed their path at some point and more than likely interviewed them. But today I'm interviewing Ari. We're going to finally hear a little bit from him about some of his best shows that he's ever seen, which I got to be honest, that's a pretty crazy homework assignment to give to Ari Fink. This guy has been to like a lot of really great shows, and he's worked at a lot of really great shows. He's a huge part of our scene. He's a huge part of what we all love here in the jam band world. And so it's cool to hear his beginnings of going to shows. It's cool to hear what he's doing now. And Ari has been very, very cool to me as someone who is breaking into the interviewing world, more of in the podcast space. Ari gave me a chance to come on SiriusXM. That was an awesome time. We got to play some Phish tunes, got to talk about Sphere, got to talk about Mondegreen coming up. And he also helped set up that Tom Hamilton interview that you're also listening to in week 1 of season 3. So excellent dude, lending a hand. Great example of a fan, and also you're going to hear a little bit more about his shows and his history as a concert goer and a music lover. If you're just joining on to Best Show Ever right now, if this is the first time you're listening, welcome. Thank you so much for listening. We've got 2 other great seasons that are out already, with a bunch of great guests in the past there. Tom Marshall, Rick and Peter from Goose, Jeff from Goose, friggin' a whole bunch of really great names and interviews to listen back to. Season 3, I'm very excited to release these episodes out to you guys. We got a bunch of cool names and guests and stories to be told. But sit back, relax, enjoy this first week of season 3 of Best Show Ever, and enjoy this guest for this episode, none other than SiriusXM's Ari Fink. But first, here's a little bit of music. Are you a hiker? Do you hike?
I mean, I enjoy a good walk through the woods. I mean, I definitely am into nature. Been to Yosemite once a long time ago. Don't make it out to the West Coast ones as often as I would like.
Yeah, I like a walk.
Yeah,
that was climbing.
You're fun.
That was straight up the hill. I'm almost nothing right now.
Well, you and me both, man. Because I'm on the heels of Mother's Day, so
it's a full day for you, dude. You had to clock in yesterday.
Oh my God! I mean, you can't clock out. First of all, second of all, like you got to clock in, clock in, clock in. It's certainly a exercise and preparation, and a jaunt through varying hits and misses of execution, especially when you got little kids and you try to plan something. But I managed to find a couple of wins in there. They included trespassing, but it was okay because we didn't get thrown out. This dude who started like a glass and window company, who's from Taiwan, basically like got really successful. His company blew up, and then he like carved out this amazing like nature art installation park in Dutchess County, not too far from us. And after like going through every single park, with art Um, within a 200-mile radius, I found this place. I did not realize that it was closed to the public, but it's like it was super dope. There was no one there. We didn't get thrown out. They like he did such a cool job of like integrating all these like art installations into a very beautiful natural setting around a lake. And so we had the run of the place. He had like this bubble on a deck for like a picnic. It was pretty solid.
And that's good dad stuff. Like, we're going in.
We're just gonna
It says
do it. Yeah, I mean, I
it
didn't know that it was the whole not open to the public until we were like, "Why isn't anyone here? What's happening?" And then I looked and I was like, "Oh, that's why." Mm.
like
But it's
he's
cool. I
like,
mean, it's very like Far Eastern infused nature type stuff, like um he had all these cool art sculpture type pieces like placed carefully along these nature walks that were like integrated into the environment. It was dope.
man, that was nice of you to book that out privately for your family.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. I was like, I'm doing this. I'm waving to the groundskeeper. I'm like, we'll be quick. I promise.
Hi.
All
I
right.
actually made all this stuff, so
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, where is this guy? He's the man. We want to meet him. And they're like, no. No.
well, it's awesome to have you on the podcast today, Ari. I mean, you get to interview everyone, but I wanted to interview you, dude. I wanted
Yeah,
to
man.
hear from
I'm
you.
happy to
Yeah.
be here. Tables have turned.
Well, it was super cool to be on serious with you and chat during the breaks, but now we're getting our full hour long relaxed, chill hangout session. I'm stoked for it. How's things been on the Fish channel? How you been doing over there?
Everything is everything. I mean, it continues to be a unique and wondrous place of audio, and the band firing on all cylinders on the heels of such a hot spring, headed into summer tour with a festival, ahead of us. It's an exciting time to be a Fish fan, and it's an exciting time to be around them because guys are really focused on the things that they do and do well, and it couldn't be more fun.
Yeah. I mean, the 40th year was insane, and we've already started off 41 about as cool as you could possibly do it. And so, are you hitting any summer? What summer dates do you hit? Like, are you going to every show? Are you
Oh, no, no, every show. I mean, I'm not 19 years old anymore.
right?
Or 24 or 28. But I certainly try to get to the shows that make sense within my other schedule
Yeah,
demands and decisions. And so, Mohegan Sun is within earshot. Um, might be popping over to St. Louis for a little midweek uh,
yeah.
adventure, and then Mondegreen is both in the backyard of where I grew up and also really close and convenient. So those are three that I'm really looking forward to and hoping to be at.
That's awesome. Are you going to be doing anything at Mondegreen? Are you set up anywhere, interviewing folks or running the channel at all?
Well, we certainly
Or am
are.
I?
We certainly are known to try to get creative with um, and integrate into what Fish does with their festivals, and hopefully we'll be putting another exciting integration together.
Yeah,
Without getting into too much detail, I will say that historically the bunny is one of those benchmarks of Fish festivals. When we launched the channel, it was important that we found a weekly home for our rabbit friends and made sure that their style and their talents are featured on a recurring basis. And this festival certainly lends itself to that opportunity yet again. So we'll see. I mean, it's one of those things where you know partially you want to show up and be a little bit surprised and figure things out once you get on site, and also an effort to bring that festival vibe to people who can't make it. So we're hard at work sorting all that.
yeah. I mean, you guys definitely did that in Vegas, and I mean, the "we'll see" vibe is that's what Fish is all about. Like what we're all about to see what that festival is going to be about. So
Yeah,
And
I mean, I can't wait to wander around and, really interact with whatever art installations and, hangs and opportunities there are to post up with people that I haven't caught up with, for quite some time. Not during the show, though, Cam. Of course, we're
yeah,
not gonna be talking during the show, but when the band is off stage,
of
you know.
course. Of
Yeah.
course. I cannot wait to chat with you during the day and after the show, but I swear, Ari,
Yeah.
if you say a word to me during the no, I'm kidding. We
Are high fives allowed, though? I mean, are those,
Of
like,
course, a high
weird
five is
high
allowed.
five during the show? Like, that's allowed. Okay, I just wanna
A
make sure.
high five, I mean, hell, if you wanna get a low five in there.
I love low fives. Those are my favorites, dude. I love the low fives. That way you're not in eyesight. Like, I don't wanna, like, block anybody's view. I'm all about the while you're walking by,
Boom,
it's kind of a thing.
slick. I do, you know what I love? In the middle of a jam, just seeing a buddy grab his buddy, hug his buddy. No words, just a big guy hug
Yeah. Yeah.
over their nerddom. It's my
Yeah,
favorite.
over the transcendent experience that they're sharing together. It's a wonderful thing.
Love you, dude.
Oh, man,
I love you.
this is the best. I freaking love it. I know. I know, I've been there. I can
Alright, we
we'll be there again.
dude, we have all been there. Well, cool. I could talk about this stuff with you all day, but we got to get into the shows that you have seen, Ari. So, before we get into your best show and your honorable mentions, all that kind of stuff, what's the first concert you ever saw in your life ever?
Okay, well, before we jump into that, Cam, I would be remiss
Yeah,
to leave out another, live music oriented part of my day, generally speaking, and that's the Dave Matthews Band, and they are on summer tour. It's another channel that
dude.
I direct the programming of, and Dave just was announced as an inductee to the 2024 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So it's an exciting time in that world as well. And our Friday night
Man,
concert series carries live broadcasts all along the band's tour. They do a lot of heavy lifting early on in the summer, but July 4th at SPAC and August visits to Colorado and the Gorge are also ahead of us. So that certainly is worth mentioning. As far as my very first show that I've attended, my parents brought me to see Huey Lewis and the News along the sports tour in the
mm,
late 80s, at Wolf Trap. I grew up in the Washington, D.C. area, and Wolf Trap, one of those lovely, just classy outdoor mini sheds that can lend itself to a hardworking family of four, letting their kids run around and catch a vibe. So that's a good one. I don't remember much of it. I do remember the cooler that I was asked to carry in along with the chairs, and that was fine. We made it, but certainly formative in subconscious ways, I would imagine.
uh, were you itching to get back to a show, or are you like, is this just carrying stuff into a place?
Yeah, honestly, like, I was young enough that the bug didn't really, like, cement itself at that moment in time. I did, like, catch an impression of the horn section and the interplay of a big band and sort of, was impressed by all of the various parts and how they were woven together, but I was also, singing Ghostbusters in my head and kind of like about that life too. I mean, I think I was 8 or 9. So I mean, the music thing wasn't like as captivating as it became, a few years later, but certainly, fond memories of it.
Oh yeah, it's I mean, it's hard for a 9-year-old to be taken away by the music and live in the moment in that way. So I mean, come on.
Yeah, I've
You're
tried.
running around.
I can see it through my son's eyes, and I throw
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff at him all the time. And it's bits and pieces, that he latches on to. I mean, he can catch like the energy of what Eminem delivers on the microphone, or like,
Right.
the guitar riffs and AC/DC, but it's not the whole picture quite yet.
Oh yeah. I mean, are you listening to Dave and Fish around the kiddos? Are they loving it or?
Yeah, yeah, we listen. I mean, they like being on the air. They like to talk
Mhm.
about the stuff that they like to talk about. I wouldn't necessarily say that they're asking me for specific tweezers or you enjoy myself or, trying to play back a 1996 Jimmy thing or anything like that. That's not how it's really working. My daughter loves Taylor Swift and Olivia Rodrigo, and my son is a little bit more into hip hop right now, but it's on and they're not mad at it, and they don't ask Alexa to change the music too often.
It's good.
It happens.
Good. It's a good thing. This is how it worked in my house as well. My folks were in charge of the music when we were cooking dinner, and they were always playing their stuff. A lot of Pink Floyd, a lot of Allman Brothers, a lot of long jams, and I was getting into like Blink 182,
Yeah,
and their songs are like 2 minutes long and really fast. And so
that's
I'm
right.
like,
Yeah,
you
where are we
know,
going here? What's happening? Like, where's
what's
the
the
song?
deal?
Where's the song? You can only plead patience for so long with someone that age, but it's on. They're down with it. They're down with the cause. They rep it. Where they'll throw the hat on or the shirt on or make mention of it if somebody brings it up at school.
I love it. I love to hear it. I will do a quick. This is a question that I don't ever ask anybody else, but since it's you, I gotta ask.
Oh, I
What
love it.
was your What was your very first ever Fish show, and then also your very first ever Dave Matthews Band show?
Okay, so my very first Fish show was August 8th, 1998, Meriwether Post Pavilion. I was 16 years old and had gone through the classic rock, towards Pink Floyd to the Grateful Dead, and had just appeared at the edge of the bridge to Fish. Thanks to, my older sister and her older siblings. I mean, my friends' older siblings, and
Yeah.
one of them brought us to a Fish show. And honestly, I walked in a few songs late on that night. We walked in during NICU, and I swear it looked like we were in the middle of like one of those lottery ping pong ball machines that had been turned on with everyone just bouncing, just going absolutely nuts. And that I certainly have taken with me
Yeah.
this day. It was a great show. Sabotage and so many amazing songs. It really was a heater. I loved it.
Yeah. I know the exact show you're talking about, and I love that show. I
It was
mean,
great. It was great. And we'll get into the
yeah,
next show that I saw a little bit later on. I think
love it.
it's on my list. And as far as Dave goes, 99 and 2000, I saw a couple of shows in high school and was into it. And then I started seeing them quite a bit in college, 2000, 2001, 2002, here and there. So,
Great era for Dave.
yeah, awesome. I mean, it certainly caught like that late 90s wave. And then, as the band evolved and the sound evolved and the songwriting sort of grew up a little bit, and Dave started doing new and different things. I was really all about it. The Dave and Friends, shows that Trey was a part of, another, really, really solid pursuit of mine through my college years. Was way into it, and it's kind of funny that I do what I do now because that was really um, a band that I was extremely interested in and saw quite a bit of.
Yeah, they are so unbelievably inspiring. I mean, I saw 5 to 7 Dave shows and a sprinkled in Dave and Tim show, like, in those same years, like, 18 or 17 to, like, 22, going to Alpine to see Dave is, like, that's a Wisconsin experience that you had to do,
Yeah, no
with the
doubt. That's a great place
yeah.
to do it. I mean, the Maryland area, DC area, great places to grow up and see music. It's small enough and big enough at the same time, but you got Alpine Valley in your backyard, man. That's a rite of passage.
I mean, it was a rite of passage for people who live there. It felt like people were, like, traveling into Wisconsin, to East Troy, Wisconsin to see a show. Is like, you know, what that was the mecca. That was like the big deal to get to Alpine every summer. And so,
Did your
yeah,
parents
man.
take you? Did your parents take you? Your older brother? What were the circumstances around your early live music experiences?
I see you, Ari. Can't stop interviewing. You gotta interview. I see you.
Curious.
It was my buddies. My folks had maybe seen a Dave show with some of their friends, and were like into it, but weren't, like in love with it. And then I got super into Dave Matthews and was like, "You guys saw Dave already? You've seen a Dave Matthews show?" And they were like, "Yeah, it was awesome. You should go." So the first show I saw was Zach Brown Band open up for him. And now they're certainly not an opener, but that was a really nice, that was a really great night of music. And it was like as packed as Alpine has ever been, like that night. I mean, all the way up to the top of the lawn, shoulder to shoulder with people. And that place is massive. It's a cool thing to be a part of a massive Dave show like that. That was probably 2009, I think. Was
Okay.
that?
And do you
Yeah.
remember the first show you saw without your parents?
The first show I ever saw without my parents was a very similar vibe, but it was at Summerfest in Milwaukee.
Sure.
That was like the big deal in that's like Christmas in Wisconsin,
Yeah.
and we took the bus down to see OAR,
Word.
baby.
Another Maryland band.
Yeah.
Shout out to
Oh man, and they came every year. We were at OAR every year, front row with a bunch of decks of cards for a crazy game of poker, dude. Every
Hey,
time. So
it had its moment. I mean, I was in college by then, but I used Napster just like the rest of us, and it
yeah.
wasn't capable. So it was always great to rep the hometown. And it's always such a treat to see those guys. I will say that my very first show that I went to without my parents was a pretty interesting one. It was No Doubt and Bush on the tour that Gavin and Gwen fell in love. And I specifically went with the same sort of intentions that Gavin Rossdale did at the time. A
Yeah.
huge No Doubt fan. I had started learning the bass, and Tony Canal from No Doubt, a legendary, incredible songwriter, bass player. But it was really Gwen that was the most captivating, and I had to get as close as I possibly could so that I could cosmically send Gwen those vibes, even though I was probably 14 at the time and 5'6", and who was going to see me at Patriot Center, like in a crowd of like, but
Oh, I
like
gotta get close.
we got real close, and we had our moment. She and I, it was an amazing, amazing set, no doubt. Ripped it, incredible. But then the Bush fans started like piling in, and it started to get real burly, and it started to get real tough out there in the pit for little 14-year-old, scrawny Jewish kids. And to the point where before Bush even came on, you know, the dude standing next to us was like, "You guys aren't going to make it in here. Get you out of here." And we're like, How are we going to do that? Look, there's no space for us to walk any which way." And he's like, "Well, the only way to go is up." And like, I swear to God, at that moment, Bush comes out like, John, everything's zen, and the mosh pit starts. And the guy looks at us and he's laughing, and he grabs me by the shirt. He lifts me up to go crowd surfing over the front of the rail, which I'm
Oh,
grateful for. I wouldn't have made it any other way. There was no way for us to get anywhere. I probably would have peed myself if I hadn't gotten out of there. It,
God, man.
it was exhilarating. And listen, I like heavy music too. I was pretty mad at Gavin because it seemed like there was a vibe going on, whatever, not a big deal. But the only issue was when I got lifted up to get, crowd surfed out of the pit closed in on my foot, and my shoe didn't make it out of the pit. And so I went over the front guardrail with only one shoe. The security didn't care, and they laughed when I asked him how I was going to get my shoe back. And he just kind of pointed up the stairs, went up the stairs.
With the
And
one shoe.
one shoe up the stairs, like glad to be alive. And my buddy shows up 3 minutes later, and he's like, "Dude, you're never going to guess what happened. I lost my shoe." And I'm sitting there like, "Yeah, man, me too." So we spent the rest of the night with one shoe and made it back to the car okay, made it back home, all good. And, that was that. So it's another memorable one.
You could even say possibly that the shoes were swallowed by the crowd.
Oh, they very much were. They were absolutely without a doubt. And I didn't need it. It was fine.
You
But it
guys
was
just like, "What?"
December, and I had to walk back to the car, like, through the rain and snow, and we're just kinda like
I was
kind of
gonna say, did you guys each one leg hop, or was it like, all right, I get the shoes for 10 minutes, and now you get the set of shoes for 10 minutes?
probably could have pulled that off. It's a great question. Honestly, nah, we had wet feet.
Man, you gotta. I mean, you then found out that you have to take care of your shoes later.
Have
You
to.
know.
Yeah, you have to. And if you can't do it at a Bush concert, well, maybe then mosh pit's not for you.
Exactly, dude. I mean, that was young Cam as well, going to Warp Tour, trying to be cool, getting in a circle pit, getting punched in the face,
Ow.
just skinny,
Yeah.
just not trying to do that at all.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I can turn it up and I can throw Rage Against the Machine on, and I certainly love the Mars Volta and all these bands loud and in my studio down here or
Of
anywhere when I'm
course.
walking in New York City. But man, the pit is a special kind of energy. I guess
Yeah,
I'm a special kind of person.
it's you know what? And then I found out that I kinda like to sway back and forth,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
have a little space, have a little
Yeah.
blanket. I kinda like that.
Yeah,
That's
it's
what I found
great.
out.
Elbow room, get a little hop step going on if you want, when tube hits, like, that's fine.
Exactly, exactly. Speaking of kinda nightmare shows, was that your worst show, or do you have a worst concert you ever saw in your life?
I'm not one for, throwing shade, um, and so, yeah, we could put that right into the worst show only because I left heartbroken, shoeless, and likely with pneumonia 3 days later. But at the same time, like, certainly also taken by, the power of live music and the low end in particular, 'cause Tony Kanal is a bad dude. I mean, his bass lines
Yeah.
are insane, and I loved the whole ska punk energy, the musicality, and the interplay, all those things, really, are what I left with. So sure, we'll go worst show ever.
It sounds like it was a little bit of both. I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like every best show ever always has maybe a little sliver of maybe there was an hour where it was the worst show ever. Same thing with your worst show ever. There's parts of it that were your best, but yeah, the love story there angle, that's tough. That's gonna make it really tragic.
Wasn't meant to be. That's okay.
Hey,
I was really, out of my league and out of my age demographic. No offense.
you're you're glad she's happy. She's
Yeah,
glad you're happy.
yeah. You know what? I was just a little confused early adolescent at the time, so.
I'm just glad you guys are amicable, but
Yeah, yeah. Me too. It's been fine. So that's after that.
Well, it is very, very difficult to pick your best show ever. Some say impossible. You've been to a lot of great shows. And do you have any honorable mention shows that you would be remiss that if you wouldn't bring up on the pod?
Honestly, Cam, I don't know why I'm doing this show because this is impossible. I mean, this is like asking, you know, someone who has worked in 10 different like James Beard restaurants, like making dishes with like so many different, ingredients and people and atmospheres, like, pick your favorite dish. How am I supposed to do it?
Right. Yeah.
Imposible en español. I don't know. I've had the unbelievable fortune of being in so many of the rightest places at the rightest times.
Yeah.
And making, being able to, even when I didn't expect it, having that momentarily like just wave knock over you of like, holy shit, this is more than a moment. This is really and truly like a forever kind of wow experience. I have several. And you know what? I tried to make a list. The
Yep.
list got too long,
Right.
cut it all down. I tried to, go back through it. And so anything I say today, I might change my mind about 60 minutes later. I might change my mind about it, a year down the road. I just want to preface this conversation with that because there have been so many, and it's really hard. It's also kind of another wrinkle for me of like balancing attendee versus staff with, in terms of like what,
Yeah.
broadcasting live versus like just as a fan. And so,
Right.
that plays into it. I mean, I never really shake the music fan thing entirely. So that part's not that hard, but the sheer volume of live music that, I've been blessed with, is not lost on me.
Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, being in the right place at the right time is such a perfect way to put that. And I'm sure, yeah, between work and just attending shows, yeah, it is nearly impossible to do the shows. It sounds like you're gonna maybe change your mind a couple times, and I think that's a good strategy to get back on the show. We might just have to have you. We might just have to have you on every other season. You know.
That's great. That's great. I appreciate that. You see me. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to break this down into 2 categories because, there has to be like a fish determination given our context, and then there has to be another bucket. So which one do you want me to start with?
I I want to start with the other bucket
Yeah.
really quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Great. So honorable mentions in the non-fish category uh,
Yeah.
of best show ever. There are a few. There most certainly are a few. One of them has to be um, Sigur Rós at King's Theater, probably 2 or 3 years ago. One of those sit down shows where the atmospherics and the mix and the
Yeah.
loud, soft dynamic and the sensitive and aggressive dynamics all just fused together in such a beautiful way. I mean, huge shouts out to all the engineers that mix bands with a ton of varying dynamics because that is not only is it not easy, but it really, really makes a huge impact on the live music experience. And I've seen Sigur Rós at least 3 or 4 times, but something about this room and this mix in the seat that I was in really just did it for me, for sure. So,
Yeah.
a really great band. They don't tour in the States a whole ton, but, hopefully, given the opportunity, if it's something that you're interested in, it's quite worth it. Another honorable mention would have to be Chance the Rapper at Halloween along the Acid Rap tour. I think it was like 2016.
Yes.
Um, and it was like it was before the wave. It was before
Yeah.
Chance broke. I mean, he had 4 songs out there, and here was this really creative, poetic, LSD infused Chicago kid who, was equal parts sensitivity, musicality, and, brash, in your face, wordsmith. And he brought a 10-piece band. It was one of those moments where, Hula is a festival that, has historically done an incredible job of incorporating electronic music and hip hop music. Um, Bluegrass music into the psychedelic melting pot. Shout out to Michael Harrison Berg for always, being ahead of the curve. I mean, Anderson Paak as well, like at Hula on
Yeah.
a small stage, back around that time was another incredible one. But something about that night, Chance was headlining on the main stage. He didn't know what he was getting into. He
Yeah.
showed up and it's 35,000 bright, colorful, really hype, you know, attendees, and he was like, "You guys know who I am?" And everyone's like, "Dude, we know who you are." The engagement was unbelievable. People were so into it. The band was absolutely slamming, and just that interactivity, to hear those songs jumping out of the speakers was really incredible.
Yeah, I cannot say enough about Chance the Rapper. To see him in that time in 2015, 2016, especially in Chicago or in Milwaukee or anywhere in the Midwest, and he's coming through with the Social Experiment and playing like the rave in Milwaukee or something, it like blew the doors off the place. And he is especially in that time, I mean, he's still, consummate frontman, but like in that time, he was like, yeah, really showing everybody who he was and introducing himself to the world. And I got to see him at a festival in the UK at Wireless Festival, which is a hip hop festival, and it was a similar vibe. It was like, you guys, you guys know acid rap? Cool. I had no idea. I brought the whole band just in case you weren't going to get it. And it was like that.
Exactly. And by the way, monster players. I mean, his band was they were
Yeah,
lights out. I mean, it really was transcendent. And I mean, listen, they were stretching and they were breathing, and there was so much improvisation going on within the set that I was just like, it was special. And then the third one, I brought three. I brought three.
yes, yes.
I would have to say would be Gorillas at not at King's Theater, sorry. Gorillas at um the Barclays Center 2022
Whoa.
all. It's a great band, a band that I've, the catalog speaks for itself. Their impact on, the alternative world and their inroads into hip hop and the way they soundscape and also the visual aspects of what they've done historically are incredible. But this show at Barclays in 2022, it really just brought every single aspect of what they do together. It was the first show that I'd seen the actual band out in front of
Yeah,
the cartoon, the comic book characters. It was both of those real people and the all of the digital imagery that they had historically presented to fans. It was a huge band. I mean, there was a choir, there was just so much going on stage, and it was all orchestrated and just masterfully um handled by Damon Albarn. I mean, Thundercat, De La
yeah.
Soul, Earth Gang, like so many amazing, contributors just popping in and on stage to add to it. It was really, really incredible.
Yeah, that's one of those, like, celebrations of a band, in a show, like, you are getting the peak of all of the things they've put together. Maybe not a peak, maybe they peak again, but yeah, super, super huge celebration. I would have loved to seen those shows. That had to be epic, man. They really pull a lot of different art into their stuff. Um, but you know what? I gotta know what those honorable mention Fish shows are. I gotta know.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
okay, honorable mention Fish shows. I don't even think I prepared a list. I mean, you know what?
Oh,
It's an interesting. Okay, so here's a dark horse. Might
yeah.
not necessarily be at the top of any Fish Petitions jam chart or list or message board blog, but I will say that Fall Tour 2009 was a really really fun and immersive experience for me seeing Fish for a lot of reasons. And
That's
and
such a funny way to put that.
hey, the show, the Albany show, on November
Yeah.
28th, 2009 was, really, really impacting. It was just one of those, it had that monster Seven Below, and it's one of those 4 or 5 song second sets, and I know that, like, yeah, 2009, they're still getting their legs back together, but what it did was, for me, was, prove that, um the possibility and the portal of what this band had to offer, not just me, but just to offer the world, was being just exploded open
Yeah.
in a way that I wasn't so sure or like cemented by their performances in Hampton when they reunited earlier that
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
I also was front row on the Philly show on 11/24 a few days prior, and that was really really fun. It was the closest that I'd ever been as a fan.
Yeah.
Um, so that one was great. I mean, there have been so many. The Randall show summer 2014.
Mhm.
Uh, really 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 memorable. First time I saw them at the Gorge,
Yeah.
that summer, 2009, the first time I made it all the way out there, and then dating back, I would say probably um,
Mm.
9/18/2000, Merriweather Post Pavilion, if my, memory serves, really, really impacting, great show, in my earlier years.
I mean, yeah, like every single and kind of what you were talking about earlier about balances of shows, like of course there are shows that everyone holds and revere and they, the jam charts are saying that it's the best show ever, but a good balanced show when you got one or a great vibe at a show when you got one. And that Albany show has been brought up in 2009 on this podcast before by RJ from Osiris
Huh?
as like, yeah, the same thing, kind of like, wow, this is what's going to be possible moving forward for Phish. Um,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know?
I was truly surrounded by, an incredible group of people, old and new, to my life, and also just the expanse of playing, really jumped out. I mean, listen, a Magna Ball was
Yeah.
flames in more recent memory, and the Sphere certainly, exciting. Um, 12/30/19, I could go on.
Yeah. Hey, they've played some good ones.
There's a lot of great gigs, just in the past decade. So, you know,
Yeah.
if we're gonna really comb through my live music brain, we're gonna go, most recent backwards and get, foggier and groggier as we go.
Man, Ari, you're setting up yourself for a full season of just you, where every episode is just Ari talking about his honorable mention Fish shows.
Well, we're gonna have to discuss that, at another time. I'm gonna
Oh,
look
yeah,
at
no.
the calendar.
Well,
Yeah.
of course, yeah.
You know
I'll
what?
I'll
Seasons come and go. I'm here for it. I love what you do. And listen, everybody's got to get a chance at the mic. It's not, as we learned through our recent conversations, it's not just about you and me.
It's so true. It's
Yeah.
about art. It's about it's about a whole bunch of different people.
Yeah. At least five.
It's about at least 5 people.
At least five people. Yeah. No doubt. That's funny.
Well, with that, what is do you have a best show ever for Phish?
So, okay. Like I said, I would change my mind um if you asked me tomorrow. I've
Okay.
thought about it. I've gone back and forth, but I think the one, if I was gonna just land on one, would be the night after my very first Fish show. My
Mhm.
first show was Meriwether Post Pavilion, August 8th, 1998. We had such a good time that my best friend's um, older sister's boyfriend was like, "Why don't you kids come with me to Virginia Beach?" Like, I'm meeting up with
Wow.
he went to University of Wisconsin. He,
Go Badgers.
was meeting up with his, Wisco buddy that they called, I think that he had a really silly name. His actual name was Tom, but Tom
Okay.
was this, like, elven-looking character who was probably 5'4" and had hair down to his waist, and, like, they had to go sort something or other, on summer break from college, and, it was that night that, like, I was really completely pancaked. The set list just was slamming. I certainly, had a little bit, more of a, mind adjustment and got super baked, on, accidentally, like, I was trying to just and it's not
There
like
you
I
go.
hadn't smoked weed before, but I mean, this was, like, different story, completely, like, out of my league, like, with the college kids who were doing, whatever else.
Right.
Sorry, mom.
Yeah.
But, it really was just, like, one of those rainbows and butterflies cartoon episode, flashing before your eyes, and then they walked out on stage, and encored with Terrapin Station, as a tribute to Jerry 3 years after he had passed on that
Right.
date, and I mean, just the silence, the unbelievable intensity of the silence as people were just like and then
Yeah.
first opening notes of Terrapin, being from Maryland, having grown up watching, University of Maryland college basketball, eventually going there, it was just like the spine tingling, hair
Mm.
raising, like, oh my God, this is just a whole nother thing happening
You
right now.
get You're giving me full on goosebumps right now. I mean, I've listened to that Terrapin many times, and yeah, you can feel the silence in the beginning, and then the crowd slowly like kind of thanking Fish for what they're doing. I mean, yeah, what was the vibe around you like during that?
Oh, man.
Like your group and others.
we were like 3 16-year-olds amongst like what felt like a lot older and a lot different college kids who were getting into, like the real kind bud and like, whatever else. Like they actually knew their stuff. But the it was like a carnival. It was really like in my mind, at least, it was a psychedelic carnival. And I think it really kind of like peaked for me. My experience at least was bowled over when they segued out of waste into somewhere over the rainbow. And this
Hmm.
like elven character named Tom, who like looked crazy to me, and at the time was like something out of Lord of the Rings, like in a magical sense, taps me on the shoulder and he's over the rainbow. And I'm like, where's the rainbow? Like, what do and he's like, no, it's somewhere over the rainbow. And I'm like, what is? He's like, look, listen. And I'm like, like he was very
You
quick.
guys are
He was very grounded. I was not. I was little. Um, and it was great. It was awesome. You enjoy myself, Frankenstein.
yeah.
In the first set, like Punch, Gin, Lizards, Esther Rogue, Bowie. I mean, it checks all my boxes as far as a show is concerned. So 10 out
Yeah,
of
I mean, just an epic tribute to the man who started it all. That's and
11
that's
out of
so
10.
funny. That's so funny to do like the Wook who's on first with the guy, like
I
somewhere over the rainbow. Where's over the rainbow? This is over the rainbow.
My
What? What do you
god. And like 5 minutes later, I realized like that, I certainly was the punchline, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm the dumbest, happiest kid in the whole world."
It's when you slowly find out that sometimes you just gotta go, "Ha ha, yeah," when someone says something to you at a
Oh,
show.
yeah, yeah. 100%. And I think
Just
I tried, and he saw, like, the cartoon going on in my head, and he was like, "No, listen." I was like,
he
but
saw the
I'm glad
gears
he did.
turning.
Shout out to Tom, the guys, I mean, and Hank, all those responsible for, such formative memories.
Some good heads in Wisconsin, you know?
Yeah.
There's some good hippies in Wisconsin, there really
I
is.
know, I know. I enjoy it. I enjoy University of Wisconsin quite a bit. I've had fun there.
You think it's all milk farmers, but really, there's some Wooks up there. There really is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, special ones.
Milwaukee. Um,
Yeah, there you go.
all right. I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast today. I mean, it's been very cool to interact with you and be on your show and meet you in Vegas. And yeah, I know we were joking about doing this again, but I feel like maybe one of these days we might have to do this again. Sounds like
Hey,
you got
man,
some other shows.
I'm gonna come. I didn't even talk about the band at my wedding. I didn't talk about a lot of shows that certainly are on the list, but let's save it for season 4, season 6, season
Of
8.
course.
We got to pass the mic around, give everybody a chance to chime in. It's real cool what you're doing, and I'm really happy to be a part of it. So thank you, man.
I appreciate you. I mean, like you have helped so much in putting together this podcast and helped me out with being a host. And thank you for being a guide for me, man. Do you have anything that you'd like to plug here before we wrap it up? Anything you want to um, shout out?
That's a great question. I mean, I think that people, should keep an eye out for everything that the Water Wheel is doing this summer. Conscious Alliance is another amazing charitable organization that has integrated into the live music world and our scene and is really carrying the torch. Anything that you guys can do to provide support, whether it's sharing information, poster drops, engaging with these kinds of charitable organizations. It really is worth way more than some shameless plug that some rando can throw at you on a podcast. So 1000%. And no offense to any of those plugs, like maybe another time. For now, like I would just say
Of
keep
course.
an eye as out as to what the Water Wheel, Conscious Alliance, and Divided Sky Foundation are up to, and just try to support where you can.
Absolutely, man. Just like you said, it's an exciting time to be around Phish. It's an exciting time to be around those charities. They're doing cool stuff through the whole big summer that we're about to have here. So, um, cool plug, Ari. Very cool plug.
Hey, well, you know, if anybody really wants to find out what I'm up to, they can ask me. They can call me. They can text me. They can email me, or find me on Instagram at Ari Daniel Fink.
Yep, that's right. And I'm gonna put your phone number out there right now. Ari's number is that was my conversation with Ari Fink. Uh, awesome conversation. This guy, we cracked into like the just a little bit of this guy's show history. He has got about a billion other shows that he could have talked about, but we only had so much time, so we can only talk about so much. It's great to have Ari on. Awesome to get to chat with him. If you're new to the podcast, got a Patreon going on. If you want a little bit more of this podcast, if these 2 episodes every week just isn't enough, we give a bonus episode every single week, pairing with each episode. The bonus episode this week is a little extra time with the other guest from this week, Tom Hamilton Jr. We'll also release the episodes a day early on the Patreon, so you'll get those on Mondays instead of Tuesdays. It's $4 a month, and you really help support the podcast when you do that. Making upgrades all the time, hopefully making the show better for you guys and the listener experience better for you guys. I hope you're enjoying that. And please, folks, if you feel inclined enough, go ahead and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Rate us 5 stars on Spotify would be great. Leave a comment on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and where you can watch all of these interviews. You can really see the dynamics. You know, people talking with their hands. It's way different than the audio experience. It's like way more visual. And so check that out. Thanks again for checking out Best Show Ever. And until next time, guys, have a great show.